We're just drowning in financial advice these days, right? It's coming at you from everywhere. TikTok, dense books, your uncle at Thanksgiving. It's just chaotic. So what we're going to do here is cut through all that noise. We're going to build a single, clear roadmap that takes you from that feeling of financial confusion to real, genuine clarity about building wealth. And we're going to start right here with what I think is maybe the most important idea in all of finance. Seriously, it's not about complicated charts or trying to predict the economy. It's all about psychology. The real battle for your financial future, it's fought right between your ears. Which brings us to this big question. I mean, we all know these people. Doctors, lawyers, engineers, brilliant people who make absolutely disastrous choices with their money. They chase silly trends, they panic and sell at the worst possible time, they fall for get-rich-quick schemes. So, if it's not about being smart, what is going on here? To answer that, we've got to start with the first step on our journey, understanding the inner game of money. Look, before you can even think about managing your money, you have to understand the mind that's doing the managing. Here's the deal. Psychologists tell us we basically have two brains. You've got your system 2, which is your slow, rational, analytical brain. That's the one you think is making all your financial decisions. But most of the time, especially when things get stressful, your fast, emotional system 1 brain hijacks the controls. It runs on primal stuff like fear and greed, not logic. And that right there is where all the trouble starts. One of the biggest glitches in our emotional brain is something called loss aversion. Get this, studies show that the pain of losing $100 feels about twice as bad as the pleasure of gaining $100. This is the little voice in your head that makes you hold on to a losing stock, telling yourself, oh, I'll just wait till it gets back to what I paid for it. And that little emotional decision often turns a small, easy-to-fix loss into a total catastrophe. Okay, next up is a trap that smart people are especially likely to fall into: overconfidence. It's subtle. Because you're good at your job, because you're successful, your brain kind of tricks you into thinking you'll automatically be right about money too. This leads you to ignore obvious red flags, take on way too much risk, and mistake a bit of dumb luck for genius. You have to remember, the market does not care about your PhD. And finally, we have good old FOMO, the fear of missing out. Our brains are hardwired for survival in a tribe. Being left behind used to be a death sentence. Well, today, that same instinct kicks in when you see your friends getting rich on some meme stock, and you think, I have to get in now or I'll be left behind forever. This raw emotion just completely steamrolls any kind of rational thought, and suddenly your personal financial plan gets replaced by a very dangerous herd mentality. All right, so once you're aware of these mental traps, the next step on our journey gets really practical. I mean, you can't map out a route to where you're going if you don't even know where you are right now. It's time to take a clear, totally honest snapshot of your finances. Forget your salary for a minute. The single, truest measure of your financial health boils down to two simple things. Your assets, that's all the stuff you own, and your liabilities, that's all the stuff you owe. The difference between those two numbers is your net worth. Your income might pay for your lifestyle, sure, but it's your net worth that buys your freedom. So from this moment on, every financial decision you make should pass through one simple question. Does this build my assets or does it build my liabilities? And part of that financial snapshot is also just being honest about your money personality. For instance, are you a contemporary who loves to live in the moment and spend? Or are you more of an enterpriser, someone who's all about goals and planning? Look, there is no right or wrong answer here, but knowing your default setting is absolutely crucial. A financial plan that forces a spender to save 90% of their income is just doomed to fail. You have to build a system that works with your nature, not against it. Okay, so you know where you are now, you understand the mental game, you've arrived at a critical fork in the road. You have to make a choice, a really important one, that's going to define your entire approach to building wealth. Are you going to be an investor or a speculator? The difference between these two is simple, but it's profound. A speculator is like the hare in the fable. They're betting on short-term price movements, trying to guess the unpredictable wiggles on a chart. An investor, on the other hand, is the tortoise. They focus on just one thing, the long-term value and profitability of the actual business. They're not buying a stock ticker, they're buying a piece of a company. So if you choose the investor's path, the tortoise's path, your job then becomes finding truly great businesses. But what actually makes a business great enough to own for decades? Well, the answer lies in finding something called an economic moat. Warren Buffett has this incredible metaphor for it. He says that in business, big profits attract competitors like sharks to blood. A great business is like a castle, and an economic moat is that deep, dangerous body of water around the castle that keeps all the invaders out. It's a sustainable competitive advantage that protects a company's profits for years and years. So, what do these moats actually look like? Well, there are basically four main types. First, you have intangible assets. Things like patents or a super powerful brand like Tiffany's, right? That little blue box lets them sell a diamond for way more than an identical one without it. Then you have switching costs. That's the sheer pain and hassle of changing providers, like trying to move your whole company from one accounting software to another. Third is the network effect. This is when a service gets more valuable the more people use it, like Visa or Facebook. And finally, there's a cost advantage, which is just the ability to do things cheaper than your rivals, like Walmart or Costco. So we've talked about mindset, we've gotten a clear snapshot of where you are, and we've covered how to find these amazing businesses. This final section is where we put it all together. How do we turn all this knowledge into a simple, automated system that just builds wealth for you over the long haul? The secret weapon here is compounding. I'm not exaggerating when I say it's the most powerful force in finance. Einstein supposedly called it the eighth wonder of the world. Put simply, it's the process where the money your investments make starts making its own money. It creates this snowball effect that starts off really slow, but over time it builds into an unstoppable avalanche of wealth. But how powerful is it really? I mean, just look at this number. If you invested just $100 a month, less than a daily coffee habit, and earned a historically average market return for 40 years, you'd end up with over $250,000. That is the stunning, almost magical power of just letting time and compounding do the heavy lifting for you. And that leads us to what is probably the simplest, most effective strategy for most people on planet Earth. First, you pay yourself first. You automate your savings and investments so the money is gone the day you get paid, you never even see it. Second, you use low-cost index funds to basically own a tiny piece of the entire market, instant diversification. Third, you just stay consistent, month after month, year after year, through good times and bad. And finally, and this is the hardest part, you learn to ignore the scary headlines and all the short-term noise. And that's really what this entire journey comes down to. Building wealth, it turns out, isn't a game of being a genius. It's a game of behavior. It's about mastering your own psychology and then just consistently applying a few simple, powerful ideas. So the question I want to leave you with is this. What is the one small, simple step you'll take today to get started on your journey?